5? Did you say 5 days? 5 days until Valentine's Day? That's right. Yep, we're here to save you. Guys, ladies, you got 5 days until Valentine's Day. And to be able to help you out right here on the Legacy Podcast in this season of The Balanced Life, we're talking about bonds. That's right, relationships. Justin Simmons, certified counselor and social worker, is coming up here in just a second. So before you go anywhere, hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you get the bell notification and that you have the chance to be able to get great content each and every day just like this. In the comment section below, I want to hear where you're from and what the best part of your relationship has been in your life as we get ready for the Legacy Podcast. Welcome back to the podcast. It gives you the most. I'm your host, Kinsley Jordan, for a Legacy Podcast, and I couldn't be more excited to be able to welcome you to our first inaugural series. Well, not really first. Well, it's a new season of the Legacy Podcast where we're diving into the balanced life and the importance of having a goal and a focus for each of the 5 areas of your life: in body, brain, bond, business, and banking. Now, if this is the first time you've heard about it, then you've probably been in a closet because we've been talking about this for a long time, specifically about the amazing course we have with the Balanced Life course, a production of the Winning Network that you have to check out. But the thing that I want you to focus on today is a phenomenal guest as we get ready for Valentine's Day coming up. Gentlemen, don't screw this up. It is only a few days away, and this is your warning shot across the bow to remember that Valentine's Day is right around the corner. So today, to help you out and prepare you to not fail just in a couple days, we have with us one of our good friends, Justin Simmons, to talk about one of the most important pillars of the Balanced Life course, which is bonds. Yeah, I'm talking about relationships. So Justin has been a licensed clinical social worker for 25 years. In 2008, he actually opened Making a Difference Incorporated, which is a nonprofit counseling focused area to be able to help people work on their relationships and bonds. Not only that, but outside of his career, Justin is, yes, a father, yes, a husband for for 29, almost 30 years, a grandfather called Pappy, and an elder at a local church, World Harvest Church. He has 6 kids, 4 grandkids, and welcome to Hear the Legacy Podcast with me, Justin Simmons. Justin, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, dude, always. It is so good to have you because the wisdom that you have, and hold on, I'm not going to explode your head here, but honestly, the wisdom you have, you've been a counselor for a long time, and you've seen a lot of challenges in relationships. You've seen so many things go on in that. Just real quick, right out of the gate, before we kind of dive into Valentine's Day, why is it so important to you? Why is bonds? Why is relationships? Why is that growth? Why does that encourage you and keep you invested and engaged?
Well, I just have always been very interested in families. I've seen what divorce does to kids.
Yeah.
I always tell the kids it doesn't involve you, but it affects you. Mm-hmm. And the kids always feel like it very much involves them. A lot of times they feel like it's their fault that their parents are getting divorced and stuff. But marriage, I talk a lot about systems, and marriage is a system, and it affects the bigger system, which is the family.
Yeah. And hold on. You're going to want to get a pen and pencil for this because when he starts diving into systems, you better be furiously writing or typing this out. Okay, go.
So anyways, if the parents are not functioning correctly, then it has dramatic effects on the kids. Now, kids are wonderfully resilient, and they can bounce back, and they can thrive, and they can move forward. You won't ruin your kids, but if you can have a healthy relationship, it models that to your kids, because what we don't understand is the things that we struggle with are, if we don't fix it, if we don't provide a model to fix that and show our kids how to resolve those conflicts, then we're just passing those conflicts on to our kids.
Yeah.
And they're quite likely going to have similar problems.
Yeah. And kids are so receptive. They know, they watch, they see. These things are not unknown to them when there's challenges in the relationship. Mm-hmm. And it's so perfectly timed that Valentine's Day is literally just 5 days away, gentlemen. Again, this is your second shot across the bow. Second warning. The Valentine's Day is just 5 days away. If you have not yet gotten your significant other something, this is your chance, and you can't say the Legacy Podcast didn't try to help you, because we did, and we always do. One of the things that Brooke and I were talking about, strangely, there's a couple things I don't know why in our relationship that we're like, hey, yeah, kind of the pat on the back, like, all right, great. And Valentine's Day is one of those. Like, Brooke doesn't necessarily like to celebrate. Not that she doesn't, but it's like, life is good all the time. What is so special about this day? But this is a really special day because it's a reminder of the love that you have and what you've walked through. The real question is, have you ever forgotten a gift on Valentine's Day or an anniversary?
I can neither confirm nor deny. No. Well, my wife tricked me one year. She talked about flowers. Do not ever buy into this, okay? But my wife was like, flowers is kind of dumb. It's kind of a waste of money. They just die. It kind of depresses me. You buy them and then within a week they're dead. Yeah. I was like, cool. That sounds logical to me, right? And so I was like, okay, fine. I'm not going to buy flowers because she doesn't like that. Yeah. And so then I didn't buy any flowers or that. And I guess maybe that was the problem. I also didn't do anything else. Yeah. And that night, she was a little upset. Yeah, I was like, but I'm so confused. You said you did. It didn't work out.
And then she said, flowers may die, but diamonds don't.
Right, exactly. That's
oh, man.
Really expensive clothing is nice also, so.
Well, speaking of that, what was the most extravagant, when you're talking about relationships, what's the most extravagant, shocking thing that you've done or she's done for you in celebration of relationships Valentine's Day?
I think the best thing that we've ever done is we unfortunately, we don't do it as well nowadays as we used to. We're both gotten really busy, which is a bad thing. But back before, when I had a regular salaried position and had time off, paid time off, and she was not owner of a salon and so forth, we tried on a quarterly basis to go get away. And that was when we had 6 kids in the house and kids screaming all the time. And so we would try to go somewhere every quarter and stay in a hotel for at least 1 or 2 nights. And we still try to do that, but now it's more like it's 2020 and it's December 31st and we haven't done that yet. So we really need to do that this year. But the best one we probably ever did was go to Eureka Springs and stay in a treehouse cottage. Wow. Oh, it was amazing.
That's wild. That sounds like a lot of fun. Getting away is so much fun. I will always remember we took a major vacation. We went to, Mexico somewhere. Cancun, I think it was. And I always remember we were sitting on this little tiki hut down on the beach and the storm rolled in. It was raining and the waves were crashing. And, the people came by and were like, would you like a Bahama Mama? I said, well, I might as well. And it was just this perfect moment that I'll always remember. That was such a perfect getaway for us that it's those memories when you take the time to invest into yourself, into your relationship, you're investing into your future for those memories. And you have, as you get into challenges in your relationship, you're able to look back in those moments that you've invested, those moments that you've had and say, this is good. Like this is really, really good. So as we dive into bonds, the relationship, one of the most really, really, really important pillars of the balanced life, it's so important for us to realize that bonds, we're talking about relationships with your spouse, with your friends, with your coworkers, and this is coming from the Balanced Life course that we have with the Winning Network. But there's so much to talk about when you come down to relationships, when you're thinking about relationships, because there's so many types of relationships. But today for Valentine's Day, we want to hone in specifically on Valentine's Day, aka baby making day, aka the love holiday, if you will.
The romantic holiday.
The romantic holiday. And I think one of the questions that comes to mind the most is how do you keep, when you've been married for 29, 30 years, you've been together, I think we all know the honeymoon period is really amazing. And that wears off eventually. And some people can say, nope, we've never gone out of our honeymoon phase ever. You're a liar. Yes, you have. At some point, maybe
I kind of think of it as a room. You have to leave that room. Yeah. But you want to go back to that room.
Yeah. So as somebody who's been in and out of that room for 29 years, what is it that you guys have done to be able to make it a priority to not only stay together but continue investing into each other?
Well, I think probably the number one thing is to accept the fact that your spouse is not the same person that she was or he was the first day you met or the day you married, or that every kid that comes along changes the person, every job that comes along changes the person, age changes the person. Yeah. Their physical body changes, but also their not their core personality, but a lot of times the way they look at life and stuff changes over time. Yeah. And so it's really important to fall in love. Yeah. Over and over and over. And it sounds such a cliche, but it really is. My wife today is not the person that I married 30 years ago. Yeah. I think she's better. I tell her sometimes, she's like fine wine, it gets better with age, right? Yeah. But truly, she's not the same person. She's a different person. And if I fall in love with each stage, then I don't wake up one morning saying, who the heck is this person next to me? I don't like them.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's that. Because you can find yourself on that spot. You can find yourself. And I've had a lot of friends who have gone through marriage and relationship challenges. And there's one thing that I hear them say, I feel like on a consistent basis, unfortunately, for those people who have gone through challenges, is they'll say, it felt like I had a roommate, but not a spouse.
Right. Absolutely.
And that division line. I mean, that's a massive statement to go from saying, hey, I love you, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, to we feel like a roommate. But before we get to that, I want to be able to circle back because you guys have an amazing story of how you met.
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
Yeah.
We was both going to college. God got her all the way from the Marshall Islands, which is an 18-hour flight. And it usually takes about a day and a half to get here because you don't just fly the whole way. Yeah. But long distance, I'm from Oklahoma because we talk about distance in time, right?
Yeah.
You know, not everybody does that. Some people know miles and kilometers, but we are like, it takes about 60 minutes to get there.
That's a good point.
But anyways,
that's a good point.
God flew her all the way from the Marshall Islands to go to school over here. Some of her family lived here in Enid. And they started shopping around colleges, and they found NOC over at Tonkawa. And small college had a dorm parent to keep an eyeball on everybody, and her family kind of liked that. So she started going to school there. Her second semester there, I had a friend who, a couple of years prior to that, actually, my best friend broke me up with another girl that I was going to marry and have 2.5 kids with and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
He literally invited her out on a blind date with a friend of his that was at work and hooked them up and just totally destroyed our relationship. I was like, thanks a lot. And then later I was like, thanks a lot. It worked out pretty good. Worked out very well for me, actually. But he hooked us up on a blind date. He met a girl that knew a girl, and she's like, this girl needs a date. And so they hooked us up. And I was really, really, really scared to go on this date because he has kind of a pattern for if he finds a cute girl, her friend's probably not so cute, And so I was a little nervous, but I did a little research. Everybody was like, you're going to be okay. So we went out on date on a weeknight, I think it was. And my friend asked me, what time do you get off work? And I told him 6 o'clock. And so he told her, we'll be by to pick you up at 6 o'clock. There's no possible way to get from work to her place at 6 o'clock. Plus, back in the day, I was a little bit of a primper. It took me a couple hours to get ready. I mean, you don't get this beautiful just from walking out of the shower. And so, so it took me a little while to get ready.
Next week, we're talking about humbleness.
Right, exactly.
Neither one of us.
And so it was like 9:30 by the time we got to the dorm. And there was literally, well, not literally, but I could see smoke just kind of fuming off of her head. But I can to this day remember exactly what she was wearing and exactly what she looked like. Wow. And it was divine, let me just say. And so she was a little mad though, but she looks kind of cute when she's mad. Yeah. And so she still went out with me, which is something we probably ought to talk about, a little bit of grace, because she could have just said, dude, you are like 3 hours late. Yeah. Forget you. I've already got my pajamas on. I'm going to bed. Yeah. But we went out, and 5 short months later, we got married. I guess I saw what I wanted, and I said, hey, let's go ahead and do this, which is weird for me because I don't do anything in 5 months. I don't make any decisions, let alone one that will affect the rest of my life. But there's a long story about how we did that, but it wasn't because we got pregnant. She was just needing to, we needed to make a decision to be able to stay together because she lived in Enid and I lived in Blackwell. And my mom informed us that if we tried to live together, that she wouldn't come to our wedding. So I was like, well, alrighty then. I guess that's not okay. Yeah. And then we got married and finished up college and had kids, and the rest is history.
Wow. That's amazing. I love what you said about grace, because regardless of how things start off, that doesn't mean that's how they're always going to be. That doesn't mean how it will continue and progress. And you made a really good point that the person you married today, or the person you married on your wedding day, or when you guys got together, changes and grows. And it really matters how you look at that and how you appreciate that, because some people would look at that and say, wow, this thing is worn out. No, hold on. Things get better because you have a deeper knowledge and a deeper expectation and deeper hope in that person as it grows. And probably the most important thing to realize is that as time grows, you've got to learn to appreciate what that is, just like they're going to have to learn to appreciate things about you. Same thing. I'm not the same gorgeous person I was when we first got married. Things have grown. Fortunately, thank the Lord that I've grown. I I think, in maturity, maybe. And life has grown and life has changed both of us, but you've got to learn to appreciate that. So 2 things I want to circle back to. We're going to go to break here in a second, but when we come back, we're going to not only dive into why that grace is so important in a relationship and why we need to be able to forgive, but also we're going to be diving into the importance of, just like we were talking about before, not only having that grace, but being able to appreciate and know who they are and enabling them to be able to grow and change. So stay with us right here on the Legacy Podcast. We're going to be back right here in just a second on the Legacy Podcast, where you learn the most with your winning coach, Kinsley Jordan. We'll be back.
Hey Legacy listeners, it's Mariah here. I am so excited about the Balanced Life season that we are in. If you would like to stay plugged in, connected with us at the Winning Network and at the Legacy Podcast, here are a few things that you can do right now. First, make sure you subscribe wherever you are listening, whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Google, or Apple, or any other social platform that we have. Make sure to subscribe and hit that bell button. That way you're notified every time a new episode's released. Second, make sure you text us at 645-7789 to get notifications and daily encouragement from our coaches here at the Winning Network. And last thing before you go is make sure to text that number again and text Facebook to join our private Facebook community.
Want to make some easy money? I'll pay you $20. Here's how. You've heard me talk about the importance of the balance in our life and living according to the 5 pillars of your life: body, brain, bond, business, and banking. If you help me sell the course through an affiliate link, I will pay you $20 for every course you sell. I'm not even kidding. So right now, make sure you go to www.thewinningnetwork.com. You can go to courses and click on the button that says Become an Affiliate today. Every course that you help me sell through your link, I'm going to pay you $20. I'm not kidding. Seriously, I mean it. Do it today and make a little money as we help people make sure that they have a balanced life so they can move forward to their success in their life. Hey, welcome back to the Legacy Podcast in our new season where we're focusing on living a balanced life. Yes, the course, the Balanced Life course, brought to you by the Winning Network. And this is an episode specifically diving into bonds and relationships. That's right, because Valentine's Day, again, this is your 3rd shot across the bow, gentlemen. Valentine's Day is only 5 days away. Make sure you're focusing on it.
Are we supposed to do something on Valentine's Day?
Okay. This man's in trouble. No, joking. Well, again, welcome back. Our coach for relationships. Not only is he a social worker, certified social worker, and counselor, but Justin Simmons, the man who knows how to be able to bring relationships back together. And we were just talking about not only the importance of grace in relationships, because we change, we grow, we make mistakes, we're human. Right. And it's so impractical in a relationship to think that your spouse isn't going to do something wrong, or isn't going to do something that hurts you, or isn't going to do something, and not that they're doing it intentionally, but they're also not us.
I don't know that I've ever made a mistake, but my wife certainly has perceived me as making mistakes before.
Dead man walking. Dead man walking right here. Take a look at it before it's over. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
we make mistakes, and one of the most beautiful things my wife can do is acknowledge that I made a mistake. Yeah. Kind of give me that eyes like, did you just say that? But then walk on. Yeah. And not hold that against me for the rest of the day. Now, that doesn't mean I can just be a jerk all the time and she just has to put up with it. But we all get a little sarcastic. We forget things. My wife loses her keys. Just different things like that happen. Yeah. And to be able to say, you know what, you're not perfect and that's okay, is just an amazing thing.
Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about grace in that perspective, a lot of times if you're in a situation, as we all are in any relationship, with any significant other or any spouse, is that you have this paradigm where, yes, you have grace, where you realize, you know what, you're human just like I am, you're going to make mistakes. But oftentimes those moments affect the passion in your relationship, because if you're mad at somebody, how are you also like having a passionate, deep romantic relationship with them that is growing and flourishing if you're having to walk past these things that there's the objective reality we want things to be, but then oftentimes when you get into a fight, there's your perception of what's going on that's a little bit separated. So how do you keep the passion in marriage when you also have to realize that they're human and mistakes are made and we're not perfect and we grow and we're different.
Absolutely. Well, so men and women have needs, and in fact,
Yes,
there's a marriage counselor that has a book called His Needs, Her Needs. I can't remember his name right now. I should be able to reference that. But anyway, there's a list of about 10 or 12 common needs in a marriage that this man has found in his research and stuff. And he gives assessments, and I use these and give assessments out. And usually the top 2 or 3 needs of a man are the bottom 2 or 3 needs of a woman.
Wow.
And the top 2 or 3 needs of a woman are the bottom top 2 or 3 needs. I'll give you one guess. What is the most common top need of a guy? What do you think? Starts
Affection.
with an S.
Social studies. No. Let's go ahead. It's probably sex.
Yeah, it might be sex. I don't know. Did have this one couple that was her top need, and he was complaining about it, and I wanted to just get up and slap him.
Yeah.
And like, shut up, go home, and have sex.
What? Counselors have emotions and feelings?
But anyways, in all seriousness, we have needs, and if you're not meeting my needs, then my spirit tends to start closing up. It's like, and I'm not doing it necessarily on purpose, consciously. I'm not being like, well, you didn't have sex with me today, so I'm mad at you.
Yeah.
It's more of just a natural thing that happens is if you're not meeting my needs, I tend to start closing up. And it's a defense mechanism because I don't want to get hurt. And so I start defending myself. I put my shell up. And same thing with a woman. If she's not getting her needs met, and even worse, if you're not meeting her needs and you're being mean to her, then she's going to close up. And, it doesn't work to be mean and gripe about the dishes and the laundry, but not help her and then go to bed and say, hey, baby, you want some?
Yeah.
She's like, no, I don't think so because I'm tired because I did all the laundry because you got mad about it.
The midnight shoulder shake. There's so many communities like, hey, you awake?
Yeah, you awake? You awake? Yeah, that doesn't work too well.
The answer was, absolutely not. I'm awake. It's funny you say that because I kind of think about it as almost like a safety deposit box. The place that you want to be able to get to, that need that a man has, the access to that safety deposit box is literally through the gifts of caring and loving and filling her love cup and being able to invest
non-sexual affection.
Yeah. Of the the good morning hug, the good morning kiss, looking at her when there's no reason to and say, I just love you. I care about you. And I'm not saying there's no reason to because she hasn't done anything worthy of it. I'm saying because it's just one of those moments where you jump into it and say, you know what? I care about you and I want to invest into you and I believe in you.
Well, and there's no, I'm saying this so that you'll take your clothes off.
Yeah.
Because girls, they know that.
Yeah.
I know that from my own life, but I also know that from doing counseling. It's like they're pretty onto you if you're just being nice in order to have sex.
Yeah.
And then that kind of takes it all away.
Yeah.
Because they know what your motivation is. It's not to just truly, genuinely love them.
Yeah.
It is to get something from them.
Yeah.
And, but that, not only not meeting needs, but also just saying hurtful things, not keeping your word when you say you're going to do certain things, like, take care of the kids tonight or something. That is a emotional memory, and it affects their ability to then want to meet your needs, whether that be sex or something else. There's all kinds of different needs. There's financial stability, there's domestic support, there's recreational fun things. There's a whole list of them. But what I want to do as a husband, passion is not just about scheduling a date night. It's not just about going to a hotel once a quarter or something. Those are nice things to do in order to experience your passion, but that in and of itself isn't going to bring the passion back in your marriage. It's that day-to-day routine. How do you treat each other? And do you take each other for granted and just walk in and say, you know what, I can just say whatever I want to you because we're married and I don't have to have a filter with you? Well, yeah, you do. You need to have that filter because every time you unfilter a comment and say something that you're just thinking in your head, you're closing that person off. And
because they trust you, because they trust you. There was a statement that Brooke made a while back that really, oh my gosh, it cut me to the core. And it was a time where we were having a conflict. I'm always going to be honest. Like you get full transparency, whether you want it or not, you get it. So sorry, but it was a time we were having just difficulties. We were frustrated with each other. She was definitely frustrated with me, and for good reason. And I remember her turning around with tears kind of welling up her eyes, and she said, "You're supposed to be my Prince Charming. You're supposed to protect me, not cut me down. And I was like, any ammunition that I thought I had in the clip, I don't know why you would have ammunition in the clip in the sense of trying to win an argument, but it was just completely defeated because I realized, what am I doing? What am I doing? I'm supposed to be the one encouraging and building and protecting her in the safe place that she can trust me and know that she doesn't have to be perfect and that she can have her thoughts and she can do her thing. And then I'm going to be here her home plate to be able to support her through that. And when she said that, it was this crushing realization that I've become the antithesis of what I hate. I've become the exact thing that I swore I would never become.
Yeah.
And that's a hard thing to realize, especially in relationships. And I'm sure you see it all the time. People, it's a dangerous path. You think things are one thing and you think, well, I'm right and I did this, blah, 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 only to find out you've become a completely different person than you wanted to be. And it's humbling and it's embarrassing and it's hard to come back from.
Well, a lot of times you can win the battle but lose the war.
All the time.
Right?
All the time.
Sometimes you got to look and say, is being right worth it?
Yeah.
The damage that I'm doing to this other person, the damage that I'm doing to our relationship,
Yeah.
is that worth being right this time? Or can I just tuck in my back pocket that I think I'm right and just move on and sacrifice this little battle that's really insignificant? How many times do you have a knockdown, drag out fight and the next day you can't hardly remember what you were fighting about? It's like, was that big of a deal? Because I can't even remember it.
Literally all the time. Literally all the time.
Absolutely.
That has happened all the time. I'm not saying we get into it all the time, but I'm saying that happens. That happens all the time.
In all actuality, most of the arguments are very minuscule.
Completely insignificant, and it's not even worth your time. We had a little scrap the other day that was, I honest to goodness don't even remember what it was, but I know in the morning, the very first thing out of my mouth was, I'm so sorry. That was so stupid. Frankly, I'm not even sure what it was. I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? And she was like, I know. I'm sorry.
I think one of the best things that my wife and I have learned over the years is just that it seems like a really big deal at the moment, but a little bit later it's not. And we've learned sometimes to just not say anything. Just, that's just them. Let it go.
Yeah.
And then instead of it being a big old battle that rages for hours, it's just water under the bridge. It just passes right on by. Or did you know it's possible literally to get upset about something and simply say, hey, I didn't like that. Let's don't do that. And then move on.
No, those words
don't
don't exist.
have to have a knockdown, drag out.
Those words don't exist in the English language. How can you possibly believe that?
Here's a pro tip. When your wife says, hey, that wasn't cool. I felt very disrespected when you said that in front of those other guys and whatever. Please don't do that again. Pro tip here. To not defend yourself and just say, thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. I will try not to do that again.
Yeah.
And then it's over.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
Now, back in the day, we've had 3 or 4 hour conversations about this.
Yeah.
But now we've learned, you can literally just say, I'm mad about that because you did this and I need you to not do that again. And then say, okay. And then we move on with our day. It's amazing. You should try it sometime, really. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. As we're talking about addressing conflict, in marriage, one of the things that stands out really to me the most, there was a book specifically, it's called Why Are We Yelling? And it was really more talking about socio-politically in this climate, in this world, that people are just putting their opinion out there, but nobody's listening. Everybody is yelling to be heard, but nobody's taking the time to listen. And it really made me realize in relationship, my greatest priority is to understand where is my wife coming from? Like, what is she saying? And why is she saying that? And I need to know and understand, because if in my mind, here's the amazing thing is that I mentioned this a little bit before. There's the objective reality that takes place in life, like the no kidding hard facts, the reality of a situation that is not determined by me, but it is actually what's going on. For example, I use this example. In Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, right now, the temperature is a specific temperature and the winds are blowing a specific direction at a specific speed. That's objective reality. And then I have my perception and my belief of what I think it might be. Well, my belief and my perception may be totally, completely off of what objective reality is, and I could really believe this. It doesn't make it right. It just means that my understanding is completely sideways. And in a relationship, I've got to find a way to be able to get my perception back to the reality of the situation. And I've got to get my perception and understanding back to truly what is actually going on in the relationship. And that takes listening. And that takes stopping and hearing what they're saying and not thinking you know what they're saying, but actually listening and understanding, okay, why is this causing a problem? I want to understand, why did this hurt your feelings? Or I understand, why was that such a big deal? And give them the chance to speak without refuting it, because my job is not to refute and win an argument.
Right.
My job is not to win a battle. It's really not. My job is to be that place where she can trust and she can express herself and she can say, you know what, I didn't like this, and this is the reason. And again, full transparency, there's one specific area, there's one thing, one conversation that we have not been able to crack the code on of how do we communicate through this thing. And we tried a couple times. It's like, okay, this isn't going to work. Like, let's go back to our corners for a second, because clearly neither one of us are really listening in this situation. I think it's probably more realistically me that's not listening, but honey, don't listen to this. It's a realization of, okay, before it gets toxic, before it gets bad, let's just realize, okay, now's probably not a good time to talk about this. Let's set a time in the future. Let's set a time in the future to discuss this. We're going to talk about this Monday at 6:00 again, so that it's on the calendar so you can come back to it. Because another thing that we used to do a lot is I would just kick problems down the road. I didn't want conflict. I didn't want anything. I was like, okay, honey, yeah, you're right. She's like, no, we need to talk about this. We need to get this solved. You can't just brush it off and then acquiesce to whatever I'm saying. We have to address this, because then you're going to be frustrated. You have to set a time to work through those things. And this is why one of the things when you talk about Valentine's Day, you're probably saying, Kinsley, why are you talking about going to a counselor on Valentine's Day? Like, you should be encouraging us to have love, baby. But seriously, one of the greatest things you could do is go to a counselor and have somebody to be able to align your perspective with reality. And that's one of the amazing things that going to counselor, because we've been several times before when we've had areas just we couldn't get past. And it's that objective review to say, hey, you got your shoes on backwards. Did you know that? Oh, no, I was just, I knew my feet hurt, because your shoes are on backwards a little bit. In that process, you see people come across your office all the time. After you get married, when you've been working on the passion, what is the most challenging thing for people to be able to do in making their marriage a priority, even when life gets busy, even when kids are there, even when the job is calling out to you? Because in the Balanced Life course, we talk about balance, and we talk about clearly one of the pillars is balance and the importance of it. But how do you help people refocus that? How do you help people refocus when life gets crazy and they aren't making themselves a priority and they're not actually taking time to work on the things they need to be working on?
Well, I think the biggest overarching problem is communicating. And again, that sounds so cliche. Oh yeah, everybody says communication. But to truly communicate and share my life with my wife, and for her to listen to me, and what you said about spending so much energy trying to get you to hear me, I use an 80-20 rule. And most of the time we spend 80% of our time trying to give our message to the other person. And only 20% of our time trying to hear their message. Yeah. If we flip that, and I spent 80% of my time trying to really draw out from my wife, trying to understand her and not defend my position, but understand her position, then, man, we can get through communication so much better. But we communicate about what time is soccer practice, who's going to take the kids, and all these logistics of our marriage. But how often do we sit down and talk about, this is where we're at, this is where we wanted to be? And, even when we say that, I can imagine people, this is where I'm at and this is where I wanted to be. And immediately my wife might say, well, is that my fault? I'm sorry that you had 6 kids and blah, blah, blah. You didn't even want to marry me, did you? Wait. We're in this together. We've been trucking down this road for 30 years. It's not about you. It's about us. And this is where we're at. And this is where, by the way, my wife didn't do that. I'm just using that as an example. But
disclaimer. The little star at the bottom of the corner, we did not. No marriages were damaged in the production of this podcast.
Don't want to throw my wife under the bus or anything like that. But to communicate, this is where my heart is. And then for the other person to not take offense to that and take personal, well, you're saying it's my fault and you wish you would have done something different. Well, maybe I do wish I would have done something different, but that doesn't mean I don't want you to be there with me. Or maybe I didn't want to do anything different, but this is where I'm at. Sometimes you take a trip and you have to take a course correction, right? It's like, oops, we turned the wrong way and we're in Wichita instead of Oklahoma City. Well, when you figure that out, you got to turn the truck around. And you got to go the right direction for a while until you get to the right destination. And so to really communicate without getting defensive and without letting the emotions rise up, another piece of communication is our emotions oftentimes trigger us to know that we have a problem. and they motivate us to fix the problem, but then they get in the way of fixing the problem.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the law of diminishing returns. There's a point in time where your effort is maximizing your production.
Yeah.
And then at some point, your effort is actually reducing your production.
Yeah. Yeah.
And same thing in emotions. There's emotions that help you get to, I need to talk to you about this, I'm having a problem. But then the emotions go overboard, and now I can't talk to you because if I do, I'm going to rip your head off.
Yeah.
Because I'm so upset.
Yeah.
And so taking that
great
break, calming down, and then going back and talking, because we can actually, emotions are not bad, but they have to be controlled.
Yeah.
And so we have to communicate about life, dreams, issues, concerns in a way that our emotions are in check so that we can actually work through it. Similar to hopefully what people do in business a lot of times. They sit down in a meeting and they don't storm off and they don't cuss each other out, hopefully, right?
Yeah,
in a functional business. And we're talking about solutions and perceptions and so forth. But that communication piece is really important to be able to move forward in enhancing your relationship with your spouse.
Yeah. It seriously is. Communication cannot be over communicated. Can I say that? It really, really can't, because that is the fruit that grows the roots of your relationship and allows you to dive down, especially when you're coming up on, this is your 6th shot across the bow. Valentine's Day is 5 days away. Don't forget about it. But when you're coming up on these benchmark markers in life and time where you say, you know what, we're going to celebrate this. We're going to celebrate our life. The place to start and foundation, I would say, is start asking questions. Start asking your spouse questions. Hey, it can be random questions. I love, you can buy those little cards where it's like the question
Tabletop.
of the day. Yeah, the tabletop. You can buy questions that are kind of spur on conversation and force you to ask, hey, what do you think about this? You know, if you had a choice between living in the Bahamas or you know, this other place, which one would it be? And there's been several times where in those discussions, I learned something. It's like, I had no idea. I had no idea because I hadn't taken the time to ask the question. And so many times, if there's one thing you take away from this moment with bonds, when we're talking about the 5 pillars of life, this is one of the things you've got to be able to take away, is that communication, one, is so important. You cannot over communicate. It's not possible, because so many times the messaging gets misconstrued. If you work on that investment of hearing where the other person is coming from and listening and comprehending where that is, your marriage or relationship is going to be changed forever. The more listening you do and the less talking at them you do, the more listening you do, the less talking.
Well, and here's one more pro tip. As far as increasing passion in your life, I found both in my own marriage and observing other people's marriages, one of the things that women, that increases their passion more than anything in the world is for a man to expose his emotional side, which we don't show very often, right? We keep those clothes on. It's like, you can't see this, right? And it's kind of funny because women are usually more modest with their physical bodies. You know, they don't want to flaunt that out. Even sometimes they're self-conscious with their husbands about that. But they'll just dump all their emotions out on the table. Say, this is just how I feel. And guys are the exact opposite. We'll run around naked all day long. It's like, you got to deal with this because I'm naked.
Hey,
right?
baby, what are you doing?
But then our wife says, well, expose your emotions to me. And he's like, oh, no.
I don't think so. I'm going to go work on the car real quick.
My belly's showing a little bit on that. No, I'm not going to do that. We're very shy, and maybe it's our American culture, and you know, boys don't cry and stuff like that. And I'm not saying you have to cry and boohoo, but how do you feel about this? And guys just lock up. It's like, oh, I don't know, I guess it's fine. You want to talk about football?
Or it immediately gets defensive and immediately gets into an argument because you get to this place where it's deflecting, and hurt causes anger. And a lot of times men, as hunters, or you know, hunter-gatherer in the hunter-gatherer theme, a lot of times what's projected upon us from society is that, hey, you need to be this way, and men are macho and blah, 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 which I am a man. I do like being macho. But there's also this other side that if I don't really truly pay attention to what's going on in my life, you can create this facade and this mask that this is what you see on the outside, but on the inside, I'm being crushed. I'm just absolutely being destroyed. And there's a paradigm, and you literally it becomes a battle between these two people, this facade that you live on the outside and this person that's hurting on the inside. And that's not a healthy way to be able to live. I love that. That is so good. So good.
Yep.
So,
and I think sometimes not only are we scared to show somebody else that, but I think a lot of times we're scared to let it out ourselves, to admit it, that I'm scared about this. Like, I'm not supposed to be scared about this. I'm the king. I can do this.
Yeah.
But to be vulnerable and to be to open that side of you up, I try it. The passion that comes out of a woman whenever she really sees you. I mean, it's just like a woman coming in and taking her clothes off. It's the same effect.
Yeah.
So
that openness of relationship, that's absolutely huge. And if you're a lady listening in this today, think about it on the other side as well. We're guys from our perspective, two guys thinking about this, but also what does it look like from your perspective in the sense of how you engage with your husband? What does that look like? Because there are some real nuggets of truth dropped here. The truth bombs were just flowing forth today with a realization of one, your significant other needs grace because they're not perfect, and they don't need you to remind them of that because they probably already know it in a lot of capacities. Yep. What they need is you to be able to encourage them and let them know, listen, I'm going to love you regardless of how you're growing, regardless of how you're changing. I'm going to love you. Point number 2, that was really driven home is not only do we need the grace, but you need to make the investment of hearing where the other person is coming from. 80% listening, 20% talking. Mm-hmm. And what 80% listening, 20% trying to explain yourself, instead of 80% trying to project upon them and 20% of listening. We got to flip those around. Mm-hmm. And last thing, and clearly I think most importantly, is being transparent and allowing yourself to open up, communicate, ask those questions. And again, when you're asking questions and giving your spouse or significant other the chance to respond, you're creating an environment that's safe for them to be able to engage, to be able to react, and to be able to share with you. And the crazy thing is, just like you said at the end, you want to talk about passion. You want to talk about the fires of love being lit on Valentine's Day. Man, you start asking them how they feel and how they think about things and truly caring about their response.
They'll start sweating.
Man, you're going to be buying a crib before the night's out because 9 months later, the baby's on the way. So guys, thank you so much for joining us here on the Legacy Podcast, where we've been talking about the most important pillar in my mind, relationships, bonds. Now, don't forget, this is your chance to be able to go to thewinningnetwork.com because you can purchase the Balanced Life course literally right now. If you enjoyed today, good news. Justin and I went through multiple part series talking specifically just about bonds and relationships. So if you enjoyed today's podcast, guess what? There's a place where you can get in-depth knowledge, not only about loving yourself, loving your spouse, loving your kids, loving your friends, and those relationships. And you can do that right now by going to thewinningnetwork.com and just click on the course section, and you'll be able to get access to the Balanced Life course. As here's the Legacy Podcast. And this season, we're focusing on helping you grow in the 5 pillars of your life: body, brain, bond, business, and banking. Justin, couldn't be more thankful to have you here, not only as our coach of relationships and our counselor of relationships in the Winning Network, but frankly, as a friendship that you have that you bring here to the Legacy Podcast and the Winning Network. As always, thanks so much for being here, Justin.
Thank you.
All right, guys, make sure that right now you subscribe, you hit the bell, you've loved the content, so join the family right now with the Winning Network. You can do that if you're on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get the notifications. And I want to hear from you right now in the comment section below. What has been your greatest challenge as you've gone through relationships and worked through relationships? It's okay. This is a good place to be able to talk. Throw it in the comment section below and make sure you follow and subscribe us anywhere podcasts are available. Guys, we'll see you next week on the Legacy Podcast. Thanks for joining us. And remember, shot across the bow, number 7. Valentine's Day is 5 days away. Don't forget about it. Okay, we'll see you guys. Thanks, Justin. See you.